Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us here today. We are here live with you Tuesday nights, 5 p.m. Eric and I are very excited to have with a
80s disc jockey.
very exciting guest over here.
Hey!
His name is Marco Miranda with the Miranda Team Pillar to Post Inspection Company. He's a very knowledgeable guy with a lot of great information to share with you guys today, and we are very excited to have you, man. Thank you so much.
I thank you so much for having me, man. I don't know about very exciting guy, but I'm definitely excited to be here. That's
And
pretty
you
cool.
know the fact that Melanie gave you permission to come out and join us here tonight
That-
was another huge.
Thank you, Melanie.
That is amazing. Thanks, boss.
Just want to make sure you guys are following us. If you haven't already, please go to YouTube, Team Powerhouse Real Estate. Hit subscribe. Catch us live every week. You can also watch us on the replay every Saturday. In addition to that, we have Spotify and also Apple Podcasts. You can listen to us on the road. Listen to us later on. We have TikTok, Team Powerhouse Real Estate, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. Guys, if you're looking for a place to find information about, very exciting information about news, real estate, social, businesses, bourbon, and maybe we'll have on a whiskey.
Anything you need.
You know, we did bourbon last week. Maybe we'll do whiskey
awesome.
Next time.
Whiskey
You're
would
a
be
friend of yours,
amazing.
you know, who's a whiskey
Yes,
specialist over
we
there.
can get him out here to help you out. Tell
That'd be
your
fantastic.
friends there.
Marco, so let's start with where are you from?
I am from Beacon Falls, Connecticut, south
and
of
raised?
Waterbury. No,
Born and
born
raised.
and raised.
Where you born and raised?
Now you're talking. No, I was born in Portugal.
Beautiful.
I'm a European guy. I came here when I was 16 with the American dream, man. I wanted to live the American dream, and I can say that I'm doing it. I'm successful at it. I met this wonderful, amazing boss, my wife Melanie, that we were talking about, and she's doing so much for the business. We opened up this home inspection business out of Beacon Falls. We're the Miranda team, and we go anywhere in Connecticut, and we help people to get into houses. That we take such a good pride. I was talking to my cousin that lives in Portugal still yesterday, and we were talking about when we were kids, and I was about 12 years old, and I stole my father's chainsaw to build a little house, and he's selling houses in Portugal, and I'm over here in the United States doing inspections. That meant something back then, we're talking to each other, and like, all right, so we knew what we wanted to do back then, and this is what we're doing today. Very knowledgeable about houses. I love houses.
I will say too that Eric and I have learned more about homes in the last couple of years than we probably could ever
Through
thought
the
we would.
inspection process.
Absolutely through the inspection process. When we go out with our buyers, we basically do like almost a preliminary home inspection with the buyers to kind of start educating them on what to look for in a home. And then when they actually get to the time of inspection, Eric's clients will tell them. Eric said that, or to tell the inspector, Eric told me that already. Eric told me that already. And we want to make sure that our clients have as much
We love that.
knowledge and education as possible in the process of buying a home, especially today more than ever, right? A lot of young people buying houses, paying top dollar. They need to know about what's involved in
Absolutely.
buying a home. But
Absolutely.
every inspection, I learned something new. I literally, and I'll come back to Eric. Eric, you're not gonna believe what I heard today.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I heard that last week." That was it's just amazing.
And I take pride in that. Like when I go to an inspection and the real estate agent, doesn't matter if you've been doing it for a year or 30 years, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And when you say as a real estate agent, I just learned something today, I'm like, drop the mic, I'm done.
Absolutely.
This is good. This is a good inspection. So, yeah, we take pride in that. We love telling people what to do.
What to do?
What to do to maintain the house.
We love to tell you what to do.
Trust me, you go to my house, and it's not perfect by any means, but we love to tell people what to do
But
to
Melanie tells you
maintain
what to
their
do.
house.
Does Melanie tell me what to do?
She does.
Yeah, she does.
No
hesitation.
She does. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But like taking care of the house is supposed to be fun, and it could be a family event.
Pride of home ownership. Pride of home ownership.
Yes,
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about some things today. There's a lot of great information we're going to talk about And we're going to focus in the beginning on heating systems because many of you at home, either buying a house now or you just bought a house or maybe you've owned a home for years and you probably don't know exactly what's involved in a heating system. You may not know what kind of heating system you have. You may have oil. You know you have oil because you're ordering oil. You know you have gas because you get a gas bill. But how much you actually know about gas, oil, what the systems are about. So let's go over how many different kind of heating systems there are in a house or a condo.
There's a lot of different heating systems.
Yep.
But there's a lot of fuel, different types of fuel, right? You can have electrical, you can have gas, you can have propane, you can have oil, you can have a lot of different fuels. So what type of heating system do you have? All depends. You can have oil and have two different systems.
So let's talk about this. All right. So let's say you have oil heat, which is very common in Connecticut.
very common.
And I'm a big fan of oil personally. You can shop it around. We can go into that a little bit more. But with an oil heating system, so what kind of, let's go into deeper with that. So oil versus hot air with oil, which means that the actual heat is oil, right?
Right.
And then it could be blowing through. It's forced hot air.
Right.
Or it's a baseboard heat.
Yep.
No.
Or it's, okay.
Baseboard is hot water traveling
I
through
love
a baseboard.
this.
It is baseboard.
Yeah, so we always argue on this, guys, because there's, between furnace and boiler.
But the baseboard is can be run by oil.
Yes.
So talking about the fact that we have, so it can be forced hot air because obviously the oil's not blowing through, and you have the baseboard heat, which is also heated by oil, and then you also have steam heat.
So let's talk about the difference between forced hot air and oil, water.
Baseboard. Oh,
Baseboards, right?
Yes.
When you have baseboards, you have water going through or you have steam. So most of the newer houses will have water. And they're not gonna have steam. Steam is something from years and years ago. Doesn't mean that it's bad because it's pretty awesome,
Pretty-
you know?
they're very
It's
efficient.
actually very efficient
We'll
to
call
heat
it
up a house, right?
1700s to about 1940. Is that fair to say that?
Yes,
Steam?
that is fair to say that. Steam was a way to
Show
heat up a
off.
house. Sure. Did you
in
Google
his
it?
notes.
He
Yeah, it's in
Googled,
his
no,
notes.
he Googled it before we started. That's
No,
amazing.
I forget to Google. It's because your guys are always teaching us about these different kind of things and how.
They
I
are.
love that. If my
Yeah.
guy taught you that, that's
sure.
I feel proud. So the difference is, and I heard this a lot, like people will call it a furnace and it's a boiler. They call it a boiler and it's a furnace. So if you use water, they call it a boiler, right? And they call it a boiler because years ago they used to use steam, and they had to boil the water to create steam, and the steam would go up. So that boiler name stuck with it. So if you have water going throughout the house, and that's how you heat up the house, it's a boiler, right? If you have air going out the house, right? If you have a furnace in the basement and you have air coming from the house, heating up and going back into the house, that's called the furnace. That's the difference between the furnace and the boiler. The boiler, you use water or steam. The furnace, you will use hot air.
And the two delivery systems, just for anybody that's not clear. So if you have baseboards,
Yep.
okay,
Yes.
and there's a hot pipe running through there. You have the fins
Yeah.
on,
Right,
on that.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
So that water recirculates. So the water goes from the boiler up to that pipe and then goes back down to the
Goes
boiler.
back into the boiler.
Right, so it's a
So when you
recirculating
have
system.
water and you have a newer system, if one radiator works in the house, all the radiators will work. If you have an older system that was steam and they turn into a newer system with water, you might have a radiator that works, but the other one might not work. So that's an older system. We don't have, like you said, like up to the 40s and stuff, they used to use that type of system. But it's something that if you have hot water and it's newer, the water circulates around the house. That's a very efficient way to heat up the house because you're putting heat. The radiators radiate the heat, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
it radiates
It's
the
not-
heat into the.
It's not blowing around, so therefore it stays warmer longer in the house. You're not because heat rises.
And you
right?
don't get bloody noses in the middle of the night, you know? It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject. Well, no, I mean, to be honest, I mean,
Absolutely.
we've talked about the
To be
furnaces,
honest with that, yeah.
and I've been in inspections
Yep.
where, more specifically with your guys, and they're always educating me, that There's a condensation pump on there, right?
Yes.
But there's also often a humidifier.
Humidifier, yeah.
Right, so it's putting moisture into the air
Yep.
that it's creating, so that the air that comes out of your vents
Has a
is
little bit of
not
moisture.
dry air.
Yep.
So you're less apt to get the nosebleeds, etc.
So would a humidifier be only on a
So,
furnace?
Only on a furnace because of
yes.
the air.
And
Okay.
the humidifier, to be honest with you, they're not doing it in newer furnace.
I heard they're actually
They're
tend to
going
be a
out.
mold type of situation there.
In the vents.
So,
Yeah, they
you
do-
think about
they-
moisture and heat, what do you get? Molds.
Mold.
Right. So that's
And
all
they do,
kinds of
and they do,
molds
and Pillar Post does do a mold test, by the way.
We do.
Yeah.
they definitely
We love
mold
it to
test.
death.
But so
Yeah.
so typically on the boilers, I'm sorry, our furnace or boiler that has a humidifier, because either one can be a humidifier, right?
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
Well,
Boilers don't have
No.
humidifiers because
boilers don't need it.
They have a condensation.
No.
Then what's that little
condensation
box?
pump is out of the furnace.
What's the
on the
box
furnace.
next to the boiler? So that's a humidifier. The little thing in the with the tube. That's the humidifier.
That's only
That's
outside
the
of a
boiler?
furnace.
That's only a furnace, not
Okay,
a boiler.
Not a furnace. All right.
So the boiler, you have the hot water going throughout the house.
yes.
And the heat is radiant. So it radiates the heat into furniture, into walls, into everything. And it's not as dry, so you don't have to get a humidifier. You know, if you get bloody noses and stuff, you can get it to your a specific bedroom or something like that, but you don't need it to get it over the house.
You know, you just touched on something. You said radiant, right?
Yeah.
There's also radiant heat in a home,
Ooh,
which a
on the
client,
floors?
yeah, which a client of mine just bought a house with radiant heat, a condo, and ironically was we could not figure out how to turn it on or how it worked and how do you feel the warmth
And-
because there was more than one floor in it.
And this is why you need the Miranda team to do your inspection, because we do the infrared scan. And we can tell you, so you can have heat through the floor and you can't see it. And we have an infrared camera that can see exactly how it's working and if it's working,
Which
right?
2 years ago, Sean found.
It's amazing.
Sean found in one of the rooms in the basement, there was radiant heat.
Yep,
And he had the infrared.
yep,
And you could see the coils
Right.
in the ground. He's like, hey, the agent didn't even have it listed as having radiant heat in West Hartford.
Yeah.
Yeah, which should probably just increase the value of the
and it was
house,
there.
having
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
So it's in the, what are we trying to do with the home inspections is not to have surprises.
Right.
I don't care if
Right.
it's good or bad, you wanna have
Right.
the surprise before you buy the
Education,
house, right?
education.
And so with the infrared camera, we can see things through walls that we can't see with our eyes. So radiant heat, I did a house in Wallingford that had a basketball court. And the whole basketball court was actually heated with radiant heat throughout the whole court. Amazing.
Outside or inside?
No, it was a barn outside from the house, yeah.
No kidding.
Full-size basketball court. It was amazing.
That I've never seen before.
It was pretty awesome.
My neighbor
was the only
had that
time
in
I've
Long
seen
Island for his driveway, so he would never have to
However, when I went with the infrared camera and I went back and forth through the whole court, I found a leak.
Oh.
And it was a big glob of heat, right? So if you have a big glob of heat on the floor, that means that you have a hole in the pipe and the water is going everywhere. It's not just staying in the pipe.
Right.
So you want to see lines, like very orange, red kind of lines, and they go back and forth, and that's how you have the radiant heat. Yeah.
So we just
Crazy.
went on a side note with the radiant heat, and I apologize for that, but that's very interesting stuff. So going back to, we have oil baseboard, we also have oil forced hot air. So the difference on, I'm just going back to my notes to make sure I say things correctly. The hot water versus steam heat.
So hot water, the water gets hot in the boiler. It gets up to 180, 190 degrees. It
Wow.
goes around your house, heats up the house, comes back to the boiler, heats again, it goes again, over and over. When you have steam, the water gets up to over 210 degrees, boils, creates steam, rises, and that's how you heat up the radiators. Sometimes people will ask me, oh, do I have to bleed the radiators? If you have water heating, no, you don't. If you have steam heating, you have to bleed the radiators once in a while if they're not working.
Interesting.
It's a pretty awesome, efficient way to do it. However, steam heat will be way hotter than water, and sometimes you have to protect the radiators if you have little children and
Yeah, they get
babies
hot.
at home, because it does get very hot and they can burn themselves if they touch it.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Now, don't some of the radiators have kind of like a valve on them?
Yeah, they do
That kind
have,
of
if they're,
releases some of the pressure?
yeah.
Yeah.
The way to tell, if you look at a radiator and you have one pipe going into the radiator, it's a steam heater. If you have two pipes, that's a hot water heater, because you have the water going in and you have the water going out.
So you can have a
If you only have one pipe, it's steam.
steam.
Yes.
If you have two, it's a
Hot water.
hot water.
Right, because there's water going in,
And going
then
out.
it's going out of the radiator and going back down to the boiler.
Guys, if you're catching all this, you have any questions on this, I'm telling you right now, this is information that's so valuable to you as a homeowner, someone who's going to buy a house. Most parents don't know about this information. Most children know much about this information. We as realtors, I guarantee you that most realtors don't know about all this information we're covering. So it's really tremendous information for you to learn about and get to know about buying a house. All right, so going into propane, let's talk about a little about propane and gas heat. Now, there's a big controversial conversation we have all the time about what's more efficient, gas versus oil versus propane.
Oh, let's not avoid the cost aspect
Electricity.
of it. Especially today, because everything's going up. so.
Extremely crazy. And the cost of electricity as well. So let's go into the efficiency of, gas versus oil.
So,
Because we talked, actually, sorry.
we can talk on all of them, I mean.
So gas versus oil and also the machine that's actually working both of them makes a big difference too.
Makes a huge difference on the price, yes. So gas versus oil. Natural gas is still considered the most efficient fuel. I know
Efficient
you-
because it's clean.
I know you love oil. I'm an oil guy too. The reason that I love oil, I can do all my maintenance on my machines. You have rental properties that I take care of. And I love to deal with oil. The BTUs, which is how much heat you get from 1 gallon of oil or 1 gallon of gas, the BTUs are gonna be a lot more on gas,
A lot
on
more
oil,
heat, a lot
right?
more heat coming from the
A
heating
lot
system.
of, yes. So, now,
Warmer, cozier. air.
today, just because of the efficiency emissions, unfortunately, we have the EP on us that makes us do amazing things, right? If you're putting a new boiler in, and it's oil, I'm sorry to tell you, you're gonna have to have a metal liner going all the way out the chimney flue. You can't use the old flue anymore.
Do you know what's funny? I think that
Efficiency,
well,
yeah.
most people should be using a metal
DEP.
liner flue anyway.
But,
Yes, yeah,
but
but
aren't you're talking about what now, the boilers?
the boiler or furnace. If you're using oil and you're putting a new furnace or a new boiler that runs on oil,
You should have a metal.
you have
flue
to have a
liner.
metal flue
Yeah.
by code
Okay,
today to
so,
do it.
and again, I'm about to learn something new. With the high efficiency furnaces now, are they
Furnace or
oil?
boiler?
We don't have
furnace.
we don't have high efficiency on oil.
Okay, so when I see, so if I'm touring a house with somebody and I see a high efficiency unit, I see the PVC pipe, the
Yes,
intake and
that's
the,
gas.
and the, so
Or
it's
propane.
strictly gonna be gas.
Or propane,
Gas or
yes,
propane,
yeah.
but so it's gonna be those and not oil.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. So when you see the plastic pipes going out, that means that it's high efficiency. And they keep the exhaust in the furnace as long as possible. So by the time it goes out, there's no emissions. They don't have to go past the roof line, and they kept all the heat in the unit where you need it, right? So by the time it goes out, you can leave it on the side of the house, you don't have to go up. Plastic pipe is okay, there's no reason to have metal or anything like that, so it's
Dave looks like
pretty
he has a
awesome,
question
yes.
on that.
I'm just going back. That's on gas.
yes.
That's on
Or
propane. Or
propane, yes.
propane.
Oh, propane.
So a lot of people from New York, they get stuck on this whole thing. Oh, I never had oil before. I gotta go to gas. Gotta get gas. And I tell people all the time, do not fear what you don't know. And not that one is necessarily better than another one, as much as first we have to understand the differences. Number two, and again, like Eric was saying before, the cost of everything is going crazy. I mean, the cost of oil is through the roof. The cost of propane heat is through the roof. The cost of natural gas is through the roof. But what I like personally about the oil versus the gas on a personal note is I can shop out my oil. When it comes to oil heat, you can call up 10 different people or companies and shop and price it. When you have natural gas, you're subject to what
Yep.
the government, the state is going to charge you, and you can take it in the chin and cry all you
Well,
want.
the town has a gas provider with that, so it's a gas line.
Yeah, right.
already by your
Yes,
house.
yeah, well, you can go propane and it can also shop around.
Right.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it's gonna be more efficient.
But it also means that you're gonna have those white tanks
True,
outside
right?
your house.
Right.
So, exactly,
Which-
and
which I
those
find-
white tanks on the side of the house, you have the possibility of buying them or renting them.
Right.
Right.
If you
True.
rent them, you pay, every
Which is
year
a
you're
whole
paying
other
for it.
conversation.
If you
But-
buy,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and actually, if your house is heated by propane, a lot of times people get a 1,000-gallon tank. Sometimes they bury them, or they leave them outside somewhere, like a pool. If you also have a lot of
I always like to say, if you have a heating system, you have a stove, and you have a hot water heater, bury the damn thing, so you don't have to look at it.
Right.
It's so cool. You
And-
know, you're like, those tanks, the way you said it, you don't like to see the looks of them on the side of
Right.
the house, right?
And you
Not
can't
a
have
lot
them
of people
buried.
like them, so you
Yeah.
bury them, you
And I
know?
definitely one thing about gas, which is really cool, is if you have gas and you want to hook up your gas grill, you never have to go and get a
A propane tank.
I was
yeah.
just gonna say,
How cool
the
is that?
only
right?
other time that, so my buyers, the folks that I work with, they're not leaning one way or the other, unless they really like to have a gas stove in the
Right.
kitchen,
yes.
Right.
you know, and then the ability to either, run the gas out to the grill, like you
Yep.
said, or run a gas dryer versus an electric dryer.
So another thing that I can say to somebody that is changing the heating system,
Yeah.
right? There is a cost of maintenance. And the maintenance on the oil, I'm sorry to tell you, if you're running on oil, you can't go a year without getting a service.
100% true. And you definitely want to make
You
sure
can't.
You can't go, what, a
Oil,
year?
oil runs dirty, man.
every
you know?
year you want to make sure you service. By the way, guys, if you think, and I'm happy Mark you just brought this up, if you own a home with oil, this is the time to start thinking about making your plans for your heating system to be clean and service. And one of the good things you
This is a
guys
good
always
time.
say is they say, pick a time during the year that you remember all the time, whether it's Memorial Day weekend or 4th of July, something, those holidays help you remember to make appointments for your
So it should be once
Set
a
up an
year or
alarm.
twice a year?
Once a year.
Yes.
Once a year,
For
okay.
oil.
Well, I mean, yeah, oil is a very viscous fluid, so it's not a gas.
It's
so
dirty.
Obviously, it's gonna be dirtier,
Um,
right.
if
not dirty in the home, just in the idea of it.
In the home,
In
in
the-
the home
well,
is
where it
clean,
burns,
as
right.
clean
Where
as
it
gas.
burns,
yes.
yeah.
There's no difference, you
Yes.
know, but the way it burns, it's a lot dirtier. So you have the filter that you have to worry about, you have a nozzle that you have to worry about.
As a matter of fact, go ahead.
Yeah,
No, I was just gonna say, on an entirely different episode, the Beckett, that unit that's out in front of the boiler, we're gonna have to go over those one day. Because that's a whole other thing.
a Beckett,
You know what I'm
it's
talking
it's a
about, right?
Yeah,
brand.
that's the machine that sits in front of the boiler, if you
Beckett,
will.
Beckett's a brand.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Honeywell, there's a lot of different brands in there.
Right. But I normally
Those,
say Beckett.
those are no different than changing the tires and the brakes in the car. You have
Okay.
to do it. So you have the igniter, the electronics and the motor and the pump. Those things you have to change once in a while. It's just how it works. With gas, you don't have those elements. It's a lot cleaner, it's a
burns
lot
clean,
easier to
right.
maintain.
Yeah, and
yeah.
gas furnaces last longer, not necessarily, or yes?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, good. I'm happy you said that because I heard that before, that a gas furnace or a boiler will last longer than oil. And I think to myself, if you maintain something every year, because people don't typically service a gas boiler or furnace as often, where they
Yeah.
say you don't need to, you can go 3-5 years before
Yeah.
servicing it.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, you can go every other year instead of every year or 3 years, 4 years. You have a better chance of not having a problem with a gas furnace or boiler or whatever you're using for a heating system if it's gas than if it's oil.
Right.
The thing is, like, when you look at life expectancy, and that's something that we bring up a lot. Well, life expectancy on
Every single
blah, blah, blah,
inspection.
it's so.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
life expectancy on an oil hot water heater, it's about 10 to 15 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just had a hot water heater that's oil in my own house. It was 7 years and it burst open and there was water everywhere. So
7 years.
when you're talking about if it's gas, it lasts longer than oil. It really all depends on the unit. You can get 10 units that are all Burnham, and one of them is only going to last 5 years, and the other ones are going to pass 30 years.
Right, you can get
You just
11.
don't know.
You can get a but obviously by maintaining them and having them clean. When they go to clean something like that, are they gonna notice if something's a problem with it so they can identify it? Or-
Sometimes, no, a lot of times, we do a home inspection, we don't go by code, we go by how the unit's operating at the time of inspection. Doesn't mean that it's not gonna break the next day, you know?
That's-
Same thing with the service person that comes in. A service person that if it came into the day before my hot water heater went,
Yep.
you would never caught that.
Right.
It's just not
Fluke.
something that's gonna happen.
It's just a fluke, right? I mean, it's, I
It
mean,
happens, things break, there's no explanation for it, you use that, they're gonna break.
Yeah, I definitely had clients before, they bought a house, one wonderful woman, she bought this cute house in Hamden, and the weekend she buys the house, she goes to take a shower, and she's not getting hot water, and all of a sudden on Monday, boom, the thing goes. And the inspector, of course, inspected the house, but there's no way for the inspector to know about this to happen.
Yeah.
It's just bad luck and bad timing, and they were upset, like,
It-
oh, the
it's tough.
inspector didn't check it out, they'd look.
Yeah.
And which is an automatic knee-jerk reaction to expect and think that, but understanding the bigger picture,
Yeah.
there's no way they could know inside the hot water heater what's going on.
No,
in there.
speaking of not knowing, when we do inspections in the winter, there's no way of knowing whether the AC is gonna work.
Good
That's
point.
true too.
Yes.
Good point. And,
Yeah.
we have limitations that we always explain to people,
You know-
like, why can we check things? right?
We can actually jump into, we have a lot more to talk about in heating, but I definitely want to cover the AC systems.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about the heat with the efficiency, right? You have the heat with heating the house with oil versus gas versus, we didn't think about electric, by the way. Let's go into electric for a second, because a lot of people have electric heat, and especially in Wallingford.
This guy.
I know,
right?
I know,
Pressure?
I know two amazing real estate agents that can help you if you have electric heat. They can sell your house real easy and,
Electric heat
Man.
actually is it's a very efficient heat, very clean.
well, if you have baseboard heaters, it's not considered efficient.
Okay,
You know, I don't care
that's very interesting.
how good you get those, if you get brand new, baseboards, whatever, if you, heating the house with baseboard heaters, electric, it's not considered efficient, but electric is going to be the most efficient fuel in the future. It's almost there now, like you can get an electric hot water heater that will be more efficient than oil and gas put together, right? You can get, heating system that runs off electric that's
Yeah.
very, very efficient.
Now, let's make sure we're talking about, he's not speaking about solar panels and saving
No.
money on electric with that kind of stuff. He's actually talking specifically on,
Electrical, that's it. Like,
And-
you buy the electricity from the grid.
Yeah.
And what you get out of it, you pay for it.
but what kind of a heating system or air conditioning
So-
system would you be using that has strictly electric?
Now, if you wanted to go electric heat, and if you don't want to deal with gas or oil, you would go with a heat pump. And, a heat pump it's an air conditioning that runs reverse, right?
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen, by the way. Never even heard of this before. By the way, Jonathan, if anybody's questions or reaching out to us at all or wants to know questions, if you're saying hi to Marco, reach out and say hi to Marco over here. He'd love to hear from you also.
Absolutely.
But the heat pump, so it looks like a condenser outside your
Yes.
house. And when I was outside looking at a home inspection recently in Woolkit, right? And my client, Nick, Joe brings me over and he says to me, look inside there. And I see this, I'll call it red or orange, thing inside it, which was the heat pump, right?
Okay.
Right, so tell me about the heat pump. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you.
No, it's fine. The heat pump, I got a great story for you if you want me to share. It was,
Yeah.
this couple that moved into Middlebury. They bought a new house. They were very excited about it. They had a boiler for a heating system.
The Vasquez family, yes.
The boiler that heats up the house with
Not
hot
just
water
Vasquez.
going through the house and everything. And their electrical bill was over $800 for January and over $900 for February.
Wow. That was
They-
just,
For those 2 months, and
Wow.
they called me freaking out. They didn't know what to do. I said, let me go look at the house, see what I can come up with. I got there, I scanned the house with the infrared camera. I said, how are you getting your heat? And they said from the air registers, right? And I'm like, the boiler, it's a hot water system that goes through you have radiators. So when you get hot air from their air registers, that means that you're running your heat pump. Heat pumps years ago, they were only good for 32 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Anything under 32, which unfortunately we get under 32 all the time in,
For sure.
in
Connecticut,
Connecticut,
yeah.
right? So under 32 degrees, you need emergency heat. They didn't know anything about it. They,
Most people probably wouldn't know what emergency heat actually is.
right, so emergency heat is when you have an older heat pump that can only go up to 32 degrees. Below 32, you need help with electrical, so your air handler inside the house is gonna have a coil that, it's kind of like, when you look in the oven and you see that red thing in there, right? That's kind of like what it looks like. So when the air goes through it, it heats up. So it helps the heat pump going through. So they never put it into emergency heat. I went outside and the whole air conditioning, heat pump,
Condenser.
the
outside,
condenser
yeah,
outside,
yeah.
it was a huge block of ice. I couldn't even
Wow.
see it. It was like a
Wow.
big tunnel in the middle, and it was about this high, and it came back down. It was amazing to see for me. However, I felt bad for them that they used all that money for no reason. And 3 of the bedrooms did not have heat because it didn't go all over. So I said, all right, so you're using the wrong thermostat. And this is important. If you have multiple thermostats, you have to know what you're doing with them. If you have a house that's older and you used to have a boiler and now you have air conditioning, you might have multiple thermostats.
Right, I
If
get
you're not
that.
sure about it,
Yeah.
call an HVAC guy to come and tell you
You could have
what's going
thermostats
on.
that are for the air conditioning,
Right?
thermostats for the heating. I know that I have in my house. It's confusing.
There's so
sometimes
many
as
of
to-
them.
And which one is what does what, and you have
Exactly.
to remember, because if you start putting on the AC one on, not
So
a
they
good
never
thing.
turned it into emergency heat, and I shut that one off for them, and I turned the boiler on, and now they're so happy. I'm glad I could make somebody happy like that. However, I feel bad that they didn't call me January 1st, but they didn't know that this was gonna happen.
So
And,
going, I'm sorry.
No.
So going back to this, so the heat pump is an electrical heating system that runs heat and air conditioning.
Yep.
It is a big condenser outside, and the way to know if you have a heat pump is look inside, and you're gonna see like a, what's it called? That no, am I saying it wrong?
Yeah, you can't see it.
There's a red thing. It was something red
No,
inside there.
you can't see it. So you have,
Like a sleeve of some sort, or some kind
you have a
of.
compressor inside the heat
Yeah.
pump. Most compressors on the air conditioning only run one way.
Yep.
If you put the reverse system in there, the same the same compressor can run reverse. So how does the air conditioning work? This is amazing, right? You always think about, oh, it blows cold air in the house. No, it takes the heat from the house and puts it outside, right? So the way the heat pump works, it takes the heat from the outside. Amazing, right? It's 32 degrees and you can
Sucks
still
the
get
hot
heat
air.
from outside. You get heat, pieces of heat and you put them inside the house, which it works amazing. It works fine,
And it makes it
about
cold.
32. So now, these new heat pumps are so efficient, they're amazing. Mitsubishi units are doing amazing. A lot of people are using those.
The split system you're talking about.
Split system.
Yes.
Split system is no different than a heat pump. That's
that
kind of
right?
like what it
I did not
works,
know
you know,
that.
it does both.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
Oh,
So-
you're right, because it's right. You're right. You have the option of heat and cold.
Right, so
Right,
it has
but-
the heat and cold.
But there is a caveat to that, because I think when you have the compressor on the outside,
Yep.
and it's not the round type like you would see with an AC.
Right.
They're usually
They're more standing
rectangular.
up, yeah.
Right,
Yes.
but as I understand it, you can only run a certain number of units from that.
So, there's so many elements to this, and these units are amazing, right? So you can run one unit, or you can run 3, or you can run 5.
Right.
5 is the most you can run.
Right,
So, however, one of them can be an air handler in the attic. How cool is that? So you can do the whole first floor, the top floor.
gotcha.
So you can have a ductwork, you can have high velocity, you can have vents like this one here that will blow cold air.
So instead of having the Mitsubishi
The
unit on the
Mitsubishi unit
wall,
on the wall, you
it
can
goes
have
up to
ductwork.
an air
Yes.
handler in the attic.
Yes.
And then that air
The air
handler
handler-
feeds
Oh,
some vents
You
throughout
can
that
feed
level.
3 bedrooms and the bathroom and the
Gotcha.
hallway. You know,
Okay.
just like it can feed all that. So And you can run
But
up
that's
to
on a
5.
house, that's in a house that has ductwork though.
Or you can put it
So
in.
my house is a raised ranch.
Yep,
But it
raised
has no
range.
ductwork.
So,
So you're talking about
You can get-
Mitsubishi units in each.
But
so
they-
no, you
room.
can get a unit that will run 3, right? One of those Mitsubishi units. And when I say Mitsubishi, I'm not biased. You can buy any
Yeah,
other brand. You can
Samsung,
like
Mitsubishi, whatever they-
Samsung is pretty
Apple,
amazing.
no.
Samsung kind of went into
Google,
commercial more than residential, but
Right.
you can buy those units, it's totally fine. So you can buy one with 3, right? And you can put an air handler in your attic. You have a raised range, so you'll have like 3 bedrooms on one side with a bath, maybe 2 bathrooms and a
Yep.
kitchen and a living room.
yep,
So in your attic, you're gonna have an air handler. So one of that units is gonna be the air handler. You're gonna have ductwork through the attic, right? Then you can have one of those wall mount units in the basement.
right.
Because you're not gonna run ductwork in the basement
True.
because it's not gonna look
Right.
good, right?
Because it's above ground.
If you have,
it's
especially if you
basement,
have a
right,
finished basement.
Right.
And then you have another one as spare. I always tell people, go oversize it. There's no, the difference on the money of 3 to 5 is not even worth going with a 3.
Right.
You always want to go bigger, right? Go bigger or go home kind of thing. Now, these units can go, the biggest thing with these units, they have to say inverter, right? The word inverter. So if they say inverter and they can go minus 14 degrees, you can actually use it for main source of heat for your house. If they don't do that, then they're just good for 32 degrees, no difference than any other unit, right?
Yep.
But they are doing a pretty amazing job with these units, and they are so efficient. It's amazing how that works.
There is so much here to talk about on the heating systems and air conditioning systems. But most important for you guys is to get as much education as you can from your inspector. And asking questions is a very important thing to do during your home inspection.
Yeah, footnote to that. I've actually done home inspections where my folks are they're looking at the house. When we did a showing, it was 20 minutes, it was half an hour. There were certain things of the house that they did not see. And I said, what are you doing? And they're like, well, no. See him? Yeah, follow him.
Right.
You want him to tell you what he sees, everything. You want to know what he sees. You don't want to have to read a report
For sure.
an hour later
Yeah.
and going, oh, I don't remember that. What
Right.
was, if you have any questions for him, you have him here now. Do it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's very visual. A home inspection is very visual. Touch it, smell it, feel it, kind of thing. It's a very, it's an emotion to the senses because it helps you remember when you see something. Look, especially with spouses, if one spouse doesn't go to the home inspection and they're reading to a report, it's a panic attack.
Yep.
As a person who's there in person understands what they saw, and when they're reading, oh yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
It's much.
I usually clip myself to the inspector because it's a learning experience every single time.
Absolutely.
I seriously can say, I love when the client is there and asking million of questions, because I can answer all those questions instead of doing the whole inspection by myself and then have to answering all those questions after.
My favorite is when a young person comes in and mom and dad's there, and dad's the guy who's been like the home builder or the guy who knows all the
Or
things.
he's had 3 houses in his lifetime.
Right, so
you
he
know?
knows a lot of things.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit skeptical about the home inspector, about how much knowledge they have, and they right away come in with some questions to test out your guys out. And I love it because they have fun with the parents. Like, my favorite is, well, today's my first day on the job. I've done, 2 home inspections before, just to kind of tease the parents a little bit. But they get to know that these people who are buying a house, and it doesn't make a difference how old you are when you're buying your first house. You could be 25, 35, 45. I've had clients in their 50s buying their first home. And when it comes to being educated and asking questions, you learn so much during this time of inspection. And you and your team, actually your team more than you, no, I'm kidding. Because
No,
you're on the
he's
road.
been at a couple.
No, I'm totally
I've
kidding.
seen him at
I'm
a
behind
couple
the
of
scenes.
inspections.
No, Marco
I'm there.
and his team are amazing. They are really, truly
know-
very educated. And
Listen, our reputations are on the line
Absolutely.
with whoever we're using for home inspection. I'm not putting my reputation and my conscience on the line by using somebody who's substandard. I'm not doing that.
And
I'm totally teasing you.
one of the things is like, well, I love that you say that. Seriously, like I want nothing but that.
Your team
I want
is
my
amazing.
team to be the most amazing team out there.
The
No doubt about
reflection
it.
of who you are and who taught them everything they know. That's exactly right.
You know, it comes from me. I love the work they're doing. They're doing amazing. I love what they do. I love what I do.
First of all,
I love taking
they
care of
always
people.
show up early.
It's so
They're
cool.
always there at least 15 minutes early.
They're the only people that beat me anywhere.
I get to the home inspection. I go, listen, guys, I'm going to be there at this time. The inspector's going to be at this time. You're going to show up at this time. And they're going to know already about the whole outside of the house. They're going to walk.
Early is on time. On
Right.
time is late.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're definitely very punctual people, very friendly, outgoing, and they're very good communicators of information. And that is really important because, again, we as first-time buyers or people who never bought a house before, even if you bought a house before, it's been years, to learn about these things and feel comfortable asking questions is everything. All right. We're going to end the show over here. We had an amazing time, Marco. You're amazing. Love having you on. We did miss the boss, Melanie here.
I'm glad we did.
Super sweet, and smart also. She's aces, and big shout out to Melanie and your team. We will have a free, every week we do a free tumbler giveaway to a lucky winner, and we're hoping to see who is going to be a lucky winner. I can't see today because Jonathan's got the...
Marco wants his name on his, by the way.
I want my name on it. I feel
I'll make
left
arrangements.
out.
Well, let me tell you, Heather, her name is Heather Knotts, okay? It's Creative Crafts by Heather. If you and your team, and especially Melanie, should call her up, and you should make
And
tumblers.
tell her to put my name on your.
Well, not to mention, but you should have her make tumblers for you guys, because you know what? What a great gift for your actual agents, or also your people who maybe are great, you know, I don't know. So you just, I don't know. I think she'd be awesome. All right. Anyway, Jonathan, who's the lucky winner this week? Because we can't see it.
Nicole Kaz won, right?
She did win.
Okay, so let's
Yes.
decide the choice. Again, she probably subscribed to more than one place. That's why we have her twice.
Okay. I gotta actually, we have to make sure we get
Yeah,
Nicole
we're
Kaz
gonna-
out there. Yes.
We got Adriana's Restaurant.
Adriana's
Adriana.
Restaurant.
So now we have to
Wings.
pick
Wow.
who to give it to.
Nice. Well, I'm probably gonna do be Valentino
Jamie?
or Freddie. Or
Jamie.
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 Just make
Oh,
them
actually,
fight
it could be
over it.
Jamie that was
Jamie's
on.
very entertaining.
He's very entertaining, and actually he's
Yeah.
been on the show with his wife, Carolina, so that could have been.
I love Adriana's.
Yeah.
Such a great place.
It's, when it comes to food.
Well, it's Dave's
Love it.
favorite place.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, and we want to see you guys next week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good night.